Hi everyone, I hope you are ready to really focus on math today because this is a really tricky lesson that I'm about to teach you. All right, we're going to jump right in. So we've been talking a lot about comparing numbers. Like for example, we could say 9 is greater than 3. So we know how to tell whether numbers are bigger or smaller than other numbers. Now we're going to take it a step further. Today we're going to figure out how we can tell how much bigger a number is. So here's an example. Let's say that Paul has 5 cents, 5 pennies. Lisa has 8 pennies or 8 cents. Who has more money? Is it Paul or Lisa? Well, it's Lisa. She has 8. Paul only has 5. Now, my job is to figure out how much more money does Lisa have? And that's the tricky part. Now, often first graders will tell me, well, 5 plus 8 is 13. So Lisa has 13 more cents than Paul. But that's not true at all. That would be the two numbers combined into one number. No, we're looking for how much more money does the one person have. So I drew a little picture here. I said that Paul has 5 cents, Lisa has 8 cents. Can you see that Paul has these 5 cents? Lisa also has 5 cents down here. And then she has some more cents. Let's see how many of them are the same, and that will help us determine how many more Lisa has. So this is one strategy we can use to answer this question. I drew the picture, I connected the ones that were the same. So Paul has 5, I connected those to 5 of Lisa's pennies. Now, can you tell how many are left over that don't have a match up here? It's 3, right? So you can easily see from this picture that Lisa has 3 more cents than Paul. Another way to do that would be to use the strategy of counting up. So like we said, Paul has 5, Lisa has 8. We know that they both have 5 or more pennies, right? Because Paul has 5 and Lisa has more than 5. That means we can start at 5 and count up until we get to 8. So that would look like this. If I'm using my fingers, I could say 5, 6, 7, 8. How many fingers am I holding up? 3. That must mean that the difference between 5 and 8 is 3. So I just showed you the drawing strategy and I showed you the counting up strategy using my fingers, starting at the smaller number and counting up to the higher number. Both of those strategies will help me figure out how much more the bigger number is than the smaller number. Let me show you another strategy, and this is one that you will see in your math journal today when you do your assignment. Our math journals are going to show us a diagram. A diagram is like a little picture that can help you to solve a problem. This diagram is going to have a big box at the top, and that says quantity up there. Quantity just means how many. Then it's going to have a smaller box that also says quantity. And then it's going to say difference with a line right here. Okay, how do we use this? Well, let me give you another problem where someone has more of something and we have to figure out how much more that person has. Okay, so this next problem is about Alberto and June, 2 people. Alberto has 12 cents. June has 7 cents. Who has more money? I'll say it again. Alberto has 12 cents. June has 7 cents. Who has more money? All right, well, you might automatically be thinking, Alberto has more money. 12 is bigger than 7. And you would be right. That's exactly right. Now we just need to figure out how much more money Alberto has. We know he has more, but how much more? That's where this diagram comes in. I see a large box that says quantity and a small box that says quantity. In those two boxes, we're going to put the larger number that we know and the smaller number that we know. So I said Alberto has 12. His number's bigger. It will go here. And June has 7. Her number's smaller. It will go here. Okay, we filled in the numbers. That still doesn't solve the problem for us. We want to know how much bigger is 12 than 7. Now you could use either of those first two strategies that I just showed you. You could draw a picture. And if you drew a picture, it could look like this. Alberto has 12 pennies. June has 7 pennies. You can connect the ones that are the same, and then the ones that are left over are very clearly standing out. Do you see how many are left over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means that 12 is 5 bigger than 7. You could use that counting up strategy that we talked about. So that would be start at the smaller number, count up till we get to the bigger number. So if I'm going to use my fingers, I would say the smaller number first. The smaller number is 7. So I'd say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Why did I stop at 12? Because 12 is the bigger number, right? We had 7 and we had 12. What I'm looking for is how many counts did it take me to get from 7 to 12? It took 5 counts. So I know that the difference between 7 and 12 is 5. So when I go to fill in that chart, or that diagram that I was showing you, it would look like this. The difference between 12 and 7 is 5. You could write a number sentence that shows that. A couple examples of a number sentence that shows this would be 7 plus what equals 12? Because we want to know how many hops does it take, like on a number line, to get from 7 to 12. So this number sentence represents that. You could also say 12 minus 7 equals what? We call this answer the difference, which if you remember this word over here, that's the word difference. We're looking for the difference here. 12 minus 7 equals what? And in that case, I could use my fingers again and I could count backwards. I could say 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and I could tell that the difference is 5. So see how we just kind of counted forwards and backwards and got the same answer. There's a lot of different strategies you can use to solve most problems. And in this case, I want you to choose the strategy that works best for you. Let's try one more example, and then I'm going to have you work in your math journal, and we're going to be figuring out differences between numbers in our math journal. Okay, let's use candy as an example this time. We'll use a couple names of kids from our class. Let's say that Ravi has 6 pieces of candy and Kira has 10 pieces of candy. Now I'm going to switch up the words on you a little bit here. Who has less candy? Who has fewer pieces of candy? Sometimes these questions are asking for who has more. Sometimes they're going to ask for who has less. So we'll practice doing less this time around. If Ravi has 6 and Kira has 10, then the answer would be that Ravi has less candy. We want to figure out how many less pieces does Ravi have. Now, when we use that diagram that we talked about and the one you're going to see in your math journal, you'll still put the bigger number in the bigger space. you'll put the smaller number in the smaller space. 10 is bigger, 6 is smaller. We're still going to be finding the difference, whether we're looking for how many more or how many fewer someone has. We're still looking for the difference. And we know there's a few different strategies we could use to find it. You could draw a picture. We said Ravi has 6, so I drew 6 circles. Remember, I always like to use circles for a picture just because they're really easy. Let's be honest, it doesn't really matter what shape the candy is. I can draw circles to represent the candy that I'm talking about. And Kira has 10. So I can start by connecting the ones that are the same, and the ones that are left over will obviously be sticking out at the end, and I can easily count them. I could also use the counting up strategy. That's where I start at the smaller number and count up until I get to the bigger number. I like to use my fingers because it helps me keep track of things. The smaller number was 6, so I would say 6. I'm going to count up until I get to 10 because that was the bigger number. So here we go. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many hops or how many counts did it take me to get there? 4. I'm holding up 4 fingers. So the difference between 6 and 10 must be 4. I can add that to my chart here, or my diagram, and say that 10 is the bigger number, 6 is the smaller number, 4 is the difference between them. I could also use a number sentence to help me find this. What I'm really looking for is 6 plus what equals 10? Or 10 take away 6 equals what? Because I know these two numbers, I can use them to help me subtract. So, today in your math journal, you're going to be working on page 87, and on page 87, you're going to see several problems where you have the opportunity to use this kind of diagram to help you solve these little number stories. Now, watch out, pay attention to whether they're asking for who has more and how much more, or whether they're saying who has fewer or less, and how much less does that person have. So just make sure you're paying attention to the language there. Take a picture of page 87 from your math journal after you finish, and you can turn that in on Seesaw. Make sure you're still doing the homework from the homework calendar. You can do it day by day, like it's divided up on the calendar, or you can do it all at once. Remember, we're going to keep all of that homework in one place. I would suggest putting it in that remote learning binder. We'll be turning all that homework in once we get back to the classroom. Like I've said before, you don't need to turn it all in on Seesaw. Okay, this was a really tricky math lesson, so good luck with page 87, and I will see you on Monday for more math.